7. And the carry goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Two things that like that suck. Depth, tackle, 85 will always go.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a podcast for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, and today's episode is number 16, entitled Squeal City. And today on Squeal City, I'll be talking about our matchup coming up against the Pittsburgh Squealers, and I'll also have on another guest. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. Let's go. So me and Mark are gonna go ahead and dive into the upcoming game against the Steelers, aka the Squealers. So we're just gonna give you guys some of our thoughts of the game coming up. So Mark, I guess I can go ahead and let you segue into some things that you want to discuss about the Squealers game.
All right. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. I'm a loyal follower, so it feels good to finally get on the on the Bengals Real Talk. Looking at the game coming up, I've just been trying to research some stats to see how I think it might go. And as much as I like to think that the offense is going to put up a lot of points, I think it favors us to keep it in a slugfest, low-scoring game. And the reason why I say that is looking over some stats, it says that Roethlisberger is 54-4 at home when the Steelers allow less than 21 points. And 3 of those losses come to us.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it does have the casings for a slugfest, but I think, like you said, it does have the casings, for a high-scoring matchup. But, I mean, typically when we play the Steelers, like you said, it's more so a slugfest and it's a low-scoring affair. So I think that that's how it's going to be. In regards to the offenses, I feel like both offenses have lost a little bit of their push, and I say that because the Steelers, they lost Martavis Bryant to a suspension. They got guys that are basically unproven. You're talking about Marcus Wheaton, Sammy Coates. You're also talking about Eli Rogers, and they're coming into town without Le'Veon Bell. So their team is basically D'Angelo Williams and Antonio Brown, and that's it. It stops there. I mean, of course, Ben Roethlisberger, but it's the same that can be said for our Bengals. It's Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, and it's A.J. Green, but I still feel like our receivers, in my opinion, are more talented than the supporting cast over in Pittsburgh, because we do have a Brandon LaFell who had a quiet 90-yard game last week after not really playing in the preseason, and then we also have Tyler Boyd, who I think is going to be a pretty decent weapon, especially with him returning home to Pittsburgh. I feel like this will be a game where he can kind of, in a sense, put on a show. At the tight end position, they have Jesse James, who I'm still trying to figure out if he's from a Wild Western or if he's an actual football player. And then we've got CJ Uzoma, who came up and showed some flashes last week. So I think in the traditional sense, it'll still be a low-scoring game because both sides are kind of unproven. But I'll use that to segue into what do you think will be some of the keys to a Bengals victory this weekend, Mark?
First and foremost, I think we obviously have to shore up the offensive line. Last week's game, that was an anomaly. We gave up 20 sacks all of last year, and we gave up 7 in one game. Right. Looking over, I think Pittsburgh maybe had two pressures on Washington the whole game. But obviously this is a much different game than that. There's a lot of words been said and blood been spilled and bones broken. So, it's a tough one. But I really think we got to shore up the line first and foremost. First, I'd like to see a little bit more runs. I understand that Cincinnati came out with a game plan and they stuck to it. Even with the bad offensive line play, and I like that in them. They didn't switch up the game plan. They had matches ups that they liked and they stuck with it. So, I think the Steelers are going to come in. They're going to play the soft zone on us. They're going to drop back. They're not going to let us get them burnt deep because I think they know that they cannot cover AJ. That was proven last year. So, they're going to have to drop back, and we're just going to have to dink and dunk our way down the field. We can run screens. I like the way we use our formations. I mean, we're just so versatile with guys that can play multiple positions, line up outside. So, I just want to just keep our weapons and let Andy do what he does. He's an elite quarterback now. I think that's pretty much been proven. So I feel comfortable going into any game because we, at all premium positions, we have elite players. Left tackle, D end, D tackle, not necessarily a premium position, but we have an elite player there, elite cornerback, elite wide receiver. So we got all the keys. We just got to put it together and not let the emotions get the best of us. But I think we play better at Pittsburgh than we do at home against Pittsburgh. It sounds crazy, but we usually beat them there, and they usually beat us here. So I think those are the keys to the game.
Right, I totally agree. Like you said, just piggybacking off of the offensive line. I mean, Pittsburgh, they tend to blitz a lot, and they do have some key players on the defensive line, but they're far from the Jets' defensive line as far as talent. You're talking about Leonard Floyd, Muhammad Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson. I mean, that defensive line is stacked. Now, like you said, our line didn't play too well against them, but I think that game might have been a little bit of an eye-opener for them. So that is definitely a key to this upcoming game against Pittsburgh, is definitely keeping Andy and 14, keeping his jersey clean, because 7 sacks is just unacceptable. I do expect them to try to expose that, and I do expect them to try to send pressure, but I think if our guys can hold up their end of the bargain, we'll be good in that department. I like what you also said about being able to exploit their secondary. They don't really have a strong secondary, in my opinion, last year, this year. I mean, you're talking about a guy like William Gay is their best corner. I mean, that's almost laughable right there. And we saw what A.J. Green did there to William Gay in that playoff game. That was hilarious. So, yeah, there's not going to be any William Gay dancing on the field, I think, this Sunday. So, I think that's also a key to the game. I'd like to see what they can do in the run game. I'm not really exactly sure what Pittsburgh's run defense looks like, being that Washington isn't really a team that runs the ball. We should know that since Jay Gruden started off in Cincinnati. I think we know that he doesn't like to really run like that. So it'll be interesting to see what Hill and Giovanni Bernard can do as well. And I also think that another key is shutting down Antonio Brown. We have to limit him. I wouldn't mind if they decided to double team Antonio Brown. If you want to force Eli Rogers and Marcus Wheaton and Sammy Coates to beat you, I'll take that all day. I'll take that 9 times out of 10. So AB is definitely a guy that I think that we have to keep in check. So I'll use that to segue into our last topic here. And I want to ask you, Mark, what makes this matchup so intense? And do you believe, and a second question in there, do you believe that we should actually be worried about this game? Or do you think that we should be pretty confident in coming away with this victory?
Honestly, I think the reason why it's so intense is that both the teams kind of have the same tradition of, or at least us we do now, is we draft guys, we coach them up, and then we re-sign them. So our team changes, not that much every year. We got guys we know who are going to make the roster, and it's kind of the same way in Pittsburgh. And if guys want to leave and get their money, they can. But, we drafted 2 years ago to replace him. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just the fact that the players know each other. There's not a lot of turnovers in our rosters.
Right.
So that would be the main reason I think it's so. And then obviously, the whole Burfict celebrating, which I don't think he was celebrating him getting hurt. That was the game he came back from having microfracture surgery. So I don't think as a human being, from what I've heard about him, he's going to celebrate someone getting hurt, seeing how that was the first game back after he got hurt. So that's really where the bad blood comes from, and the Twitter, that really escalated it way more than it ever needed to be. And like I said, personally, I don't worry about any game because I think at every position, like I said earlier, we have elite. That's important. I think Andy's an elite QB. We have elite weapons. Our offensive line was elite last year. We didn't show it last week. But, corner, DN, we have good safeties. Our linebackers are they're serviceable now without Burfict. So, there's not a lot of weak spots on our team. So I don't really feel nervous about any game now that I know that we have a quarterback that can lead us out to a big lead, bring us back, maintain the game, whatever it needs to be. He's shown that he can do it in a variety of ways.
Right, and I definitely totally agree with that. I think, in my opinion, a lot of it is, like you said, the fact that they've known each other for a while. I think it's also that the Steelers seem to be the only organization within the AFC North, and that kind of changed a little bit this week with some of the Steelers' key players talking about this matchup. Heading into this game, I'm not as truly worried about it just because of how the defense played against the Jets last week. I mean, the Jets had, in my opinion, a better offense as of now. Not overall, like not with Le'Veon Bell, but without Le'Veon Bell at week 2, I feel like the Jets' offense was better, and I like the game plan that they had going into last week. So I definitely feel like we can definitely walk into Pittsburgh and walk out with a win. And like you mentioned earlier, we have a good record there. So I'm not really too worried about it, man. I mean, honestly. So I think we get in there and we get the win.
As do I.
Right. But, hey, man, thanks for joining us on the show, and definitely we'll have to have you back on, man, for sure.
Thanks, bud.
All right, who that?
And next, we'll bring in our resident Steelers fan, Pedram.
What's going on, everybody? It's Pregame. Yes, the resident Steelers fan in the building. I just want to quickly shout out Ace for inviting me back onto the show. Yeah, I appreciate you for having me, man. So let's get into I was brought in here for Bengals versus Steelers week, baby. I mean, I don't think that needs any introduction. We know the kind of history these two teams have, the recent history these two teams have especially. I don't think I need to go into what happened last year and all that. Let's just preview this matchup right here. Let's get a Steelers perspective on it. That's what I'm here to do, kind of give my thoughts as a Steelers fan and kind of bring a Steelers perspective into this. And mainly just kind of give you guys what the Steelers' keys are to winning this game. So, yeah, let's kind of recap the Week 1 games for both teams. Bengals, they went into New York. They kind of escaped New York with a victory. It's a pretty hard-fought game, pretty sloppy on both sides. Huge game by A.J. Green. I know a lot of people did not expect him to play that well. Pretty big game from Andy Dalton as well. I know he struggled a lot in the first quarter, but 3 quarters after that, dude was booming. Bengals defense, huge contributions from a lot of the new players in the secondary, specifically Josh Shaw. I did watch the entire game, and I kind of expected Sean Williams to play a little better than he did. I know maybe that was just a little. I know he played much better against us than he did in that game. Maybe it was just kind of a day off for him. I mean, I expect him to play much better versus us coming up tomorrow, as it is Saturday, as I record this video. Yeah, Bengals offensive line. Woof. Couple of pretty big blunders there. I know Russell Bodine does remain the weak link. Some pretty questionable plays from a lot of other players, not only Russell Bodine on that line. They did allow 7 sacks. Cedric Ogbuchi, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, did get beat a few times. I mean, that is expected. He is pretty new, stepping in for Andre Smith. Kevin Zeiler did get beat. Kind of surprising. He is one of the best guards in this league. I'm surprised he got beat like that. But then again, that is the Jets' D front. That Jets D line, in my opinion, is the best D line in the NFL. So I mean, not surprising, even though they didn't even have Sheldon Richardson. You know, one of the I guess the weak spot on the Bengals defense was their linebackers. I mean, without Burfict, I guess they will be missing a step in the linebacker department. That just caps it off. You know, let's see. George Iloka is George Iloka. Huge play by him. I know this is not a play a lot of people talk about, but I remember it was like, I think Bilal Powell was like 2 yards away from the end zone, and you thought for sure he was about to score it, and you know, you're like, okay, maybe he gets tackled, but his momentum will probably carry him into the end zone, right? And then here comes George Iloka flying in and just knocks dude back, does not get into the end zone, and they end up actually having to kick a field goal that drive. Huge play. Not a play everyone talks about, but I think that was one of the key plays of the game. Bengals win. Win by 1 point. Nick Novak did miss an extra point, and Marcus Hunt did get a huge block on a field goal. Now let's get into the Steelers. Steelers played the Redskins on Monday Night Football in Washington, D.C. Huge games from AB. You know, AB is AB. 2 touchdowns, 126 yards. Ben Roethlisberger played extremely well. You know, Ben is he's kind of in the prime of his career. He's kind of continuing to ascend right now. He lost a lot of weight in the offseason. I know he's trying to be more mobile, but it was really his throws that kind of flashed his pedigree on Monday night. Some pretty big throws to AB. I know one throw was just absolutely beautiful where it was a pretty bad snap by Marquise Pouncey. The ball goes on the ground. He picks it up without even thinking and just throws a perfect pass right over the left shoulder of AB for a touchdown. Eli Rogers, a name a lot of NFL fans don't know about, but will be hearing about certainly in the coming up this year. Some huge conversions for us. He is a possession slot receiver for us. Very solid player, and he's looking to have a big game. He's looking to have a pretty big game against the Bengals, as the Bengals will probably try and key in on AB. On defensive side of the ball, we kind of just played a very solid game. The huge guy that played was Ryan Shazier. Ryan Shazier had an amazing game. He is Ryan Shazier, fastest linebacker in the league. He had a forced fumble. He had an interception. And his best play of the game was actually he had to guard Jordan Reed one-on-one, and Jordan Reed kind of got past him a little bit, and it was a throw to the end zone, but with his speed he was able to make up for that, and he caught up to Jordan Reed, knocking the ball away at the last second. Even though he did have a forced fumble and an interception that game, that play, in my opinion and many others, was his best play of the game, saving a touchdown that probably 99% of the other linebackers in the league would have let him score. So, yeah, kind of preview of those two. Let's just get back to the Steelers-Redskins game. The weakness we did have was, I'm surprised our D-line got no pressure at all. Our outside linebackers, they're just very pissed. They're just piss poor at getting sacks. They can't get any sacks. Bud Dupree is out till at least week 8. Hopefully we can get him back, but he's the one guy we kind of counted on to get those sacks. Unfortunately, he went down, so it's not good for our outside linebackers to get sacks, and so a huge onus is going to be on Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt to kind of pick up the slack there. And they did not. Our D-line basically didn't do on Monday night. I think our secondary did a really decent job of just keeping everything in front of them. Yeah, they let some not large, but decent yardage plays go, but they allowed 0 touchdowns through the air, just 1 rushing touchdown, 16 points total. Very solid performance from them. Very stout tackling. And that's just how they're gonna have to beat the Bengals. So that kind of recaps both games, and now let's get into my 5 keys to victory for the Steelers for this game. So key number 1 is if this is for the Steelers, key number 1 is do not let anyone other than AJ Green get over 90 yards. So historically, AJ Green has done pretty well against us. He always has good games against the Steelers, and that's fine because out of the last 11 games, Bengals have only won 3. So even though AJ Green is going to get his, the key will be not letting other guys have dominant performances. I'm talking Tyler Boyd, Brandon LaFell, and CJ Uzoma. We cannot let any of those guys get over 90 yards, and that's going to be our goal. Number 2 is protect Ben, control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, especially. Those 3 games that we did lose, it's always been the Bengals causing havoc for our O-line. There's just been chaos in that there's always just been chaos in the trenches. And I think one of those games, Michael Johnson blocked I think he batted 3 passes or something ridiculous. I know they were just getting stupid pressure. We couldn't catch any rhythm. It was just that was usually how they won. And our offensive line played very well versus Washington, and hopefully they continue playing well versus the Bengals, and we're going to need them to if we want to win the game. Key number 3 is going to be test Dre Kirkpatrick and Darqueze Dennard in the tackling. I know Darqueze Dennard has been pretty unhealthy. Not unhealthy, but he just hasn't been able to, stay on the field for the majority of his NFL career. And he didn't play last week, but he's looking to play this week. So, on top of that, the Bengals do like to call a few blitzes. So, I think we need to, throw the screen passes and kind of make those cornerbacks like Darqueze and Dre come up and make those tackles, test their physicality. Hopefully, that will, make them play closer to the line in the future, which will kind of expose them to those deep balls, which obviously if we can get one of those 70, 60, 50-yard touchdowns to AB, that will be a very good I think that will be a key to winning the game. We need to kind of force them to play. If we just keep throwing those kind of 15 to 20-yard post routes, I think the Bengals are one of the best teams at stopping those. So I think we do need to test their physicality. We do need to make them come up and tackle, and hopefully that will force them to play closer, and then we'll be able to expose them for the big game. Key number 4: do not let big plays happen. Our defense, we play cover 3 defense, a cover 3 zone defense, which means we rarely, if ever, actually play man coverage. So obviously we will have to contain AJ Green by a committee. The key will be we're gonna give Andy Dalton those short, very short 2-3 yard out throws. We're gonna have to make those wide receivers fight for the first downs off yak. We just can't let AJ Green get those 70, 80-yard touchdowns. Luckily, we do not have Antoine Blake anymore. Dude is legit trash. He's probably the worst cornerback in the league. Good riddance. AJ Green just smoked dude almost every occasion. Yeah, we got to keep everything in front of us. That's going to be the key. That's how we defended the Redskins. We did let them get quite a few first downs. We kept everything in front of us. Always came up stout in the tackling department. And we allowed 0 passing touchdowns and only 16 points. Pretty solid performance. And we're going to have to do that again if we want to beat the Bengals. Key number 5 is going to be try your best, do whatever motions you can, whatever formations you can come up with, and isolate AB on Dre Kirkpatrick. Dre Kirkpatrick, he's not the best corner in the league. I know he gets a lot of flack from not only fans of the other 31 teams, but especially Bengals fans. And personally, I do think he is a very decent. I actually think he's even above average. In zone coverage, he can make those plays in space and come up and make pretty solid tackles and some picks here and there when in zone. However, in man coverage, this dude can get beat by some of the lowest tier receivers in the league. And if we can somehow isolate AB on him, because I'm not too familiar with the Bengals fiends. I'm pretty familiar with it, but not to a minute level of the Bengals schemes. But I'm not too sure if they'll make Adam Jones follow AB around. I don't think they will. So the goal here will be to isolate AB on Kirk. If that can happen, I'm pretty confident in AB's ability to get at least one 50-plus yard bomb. Now, on the other hand of the ball, it will be important to make sure AJ Green does not get left one-on-one. Always have safety help. Whatever side AJ Green is on, I don't give a put his safety there. We cannot let this dude, we cannot let Andy throw any bombs to him one-on-one. At the very least, you got to have Will Gay on him. If Will Gay's not on him and he's one-on-one, it's probably going to be over. Those are my 5 keys. Just as everyone else, I'm super hyped for this game. I know there's been trash talk going every which way from Bengals fans, Steelers fans, and it's what it is. It's the best rivalry in football right now, and again, I'm preaching hopefully no injuries on either side of the game, either side of the ball. I want to thank Ace again for having me on. I'm still pretty new to this, but I'll see you again week 15, and good luck to both teams. Go Steelers.
Hey guys, this is Ace. Definitely want to shout out Pedram for definitely giving us that Steelers input. Definitely a classy guy, classy fan. Thanks again, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing him later on in the season. But with that being said, I'll end this with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.